You wake up, but you do not ascend. There is no sharp intake of breath, no sudden clarity of a new day. There is simply the mechanical transition from unconsciousness to function. You stare at the ceiling, not with dread, but with a profound, heavy neutrality. Your body knows what to do before your mind even consents to be awake. The feet find the floor, the water boils, the clothes are selected. It is a sequence of movements executed with surgical precision, yet you feel entirely absent from the cockpit. It is not sadness. Sadness is an active state. It requires energy to mourn. This is different. This is the hum of a refrigerator in an empty house, a constant, low-frequency vibration of maintenance. You are efficient. You are reliable. You answer the emails, you navigate the traffic, you sustain the conversations. But there is a distinct somatic realization that you are not actually propelling yourself forward. You are being dragged by momentum you established years ago. You notice that you have stopped looking at things and started scanning them. You scan faces for deviation, schedules for conflict, rooms for stability. Your eyes don't rest, they verify. And in those quiet moments, perhaps waiting for a light to change or the coffee to brew, a specific physical sensation rises in the center of the chest. It is not pain, it is a tightness, a chronic bracing, as if you are holding your breath underwater, waiting to surface, but you have forgotten that you are the one keeping your head submerged. The body is perpetually tense, chemically prepared for an impact that never arrives, locking you in a state of suspension where the calendar days turn, yet you remain frozen in a singular, high-alert stillness. You are safe, objectively. So why does your nervous system scream that you are merely enduring a siege? From the outside, this condition is almost aggressively invisible. In fact, in a culture that fetishizes productivity and stoicism, your state is often mistaken for the ideal. You are likely the person others describe as grounded, unflappable, or low maintenance. When the immediate environment spikes in temperature, a sudden crisis at work, a chaotic family dinner, a financial emergency, you do not oscillate, you do not spiral, you simply act. You become a conduit for solution, bypassing emotion to execute the necessary logistics. The world looks at your lack of visible tremor and calls it strength. They mistake your flatline for stability. Because you do not weep in public, because you do not lash out, the assumption is that you are processing stress with superior regulation. The labels attach themselves to you quickly. The rock, the anchor, the old soul. These are intended as high compliments, but to you they feel like heavy, claustrophobic blankets. They are accolades for your ability to metabolize toxic volumes of pressure without emitting a distress signal. People instinctively bring you their chaos because they perceive you as having a surplus of order. They pour their anxiety into your container because yours seems infinite, unaware that the container is not infinite. It is simply hermetically sealed. They interpret your detachment as objectivity. They read your silence as wisdom. If you were to mention, in a rare moment of vulnerability, that you feel exhausted, they would likely nod and say, "We're all tired," normalizing your experience into the background noise of modern life. They assume your fatigue is the byproduct of effort, not the byproduct of suppression. They validate the mask, unknowingly incentivizing you to tighten it. Every time you are rewarded for holding it together, your nervous system registers a dangerous lesson. Connection is conditional on your performance of invulnerability. You are performing, living so convincingly that no one suspects you are merely managing a prolonged evacuation. And this external praise does not comfort you. It isolates you, creating a terrifying gap between the accolades you receive and the exorbitant tax you are paying just to remain in neutral. The erosion is not dramatic, it is geological. It happens in the slow, imperceptible grinding down of your capacity to feel anything other than relief. You begin to notice that your internal landscape is becoming flattened, a monoculture of efficiency, where the only peaks are anxiety and the only valleys are exhaustion. You are not crashing, you are dimming. The vibrant spectrum of human emotion, awe, spontaneous joy, creative impulse, deep sorrow, is slowly compressed into a narrow band of manageable grey. You stop seeking what makes you feel alive and start prioritizing what makes you feel safe. This is not a passive process. It is an incredibly expensive metabolic activity. To maintain a calm exterior while your interior is braced for impact requires a continuous, high-voltage expenditure of energy. You are driving with the emergency brake pulled all the way up. You can still move, you can still reach your destination, but the friction is burning out the engine. This is why you feel a bone-deep weariness that sleep does not touch. You wake up tired because you were not resting, you were merely offline. Your nervous system remained on guard duty, scanning the silence, keeping the muscles slightly contracted, ensuring that even in unconsciousness, you were prepared to mobilize. Over time, this vigilance creates a profound deficit. You start to treat your energy like a rationing economy during wartime. Social interactions are calculated by their cost. Do I have the budget for this conversation? Hobbies are abandoned not because you don't like them, but because they require an initial spark of output you simply cannot spare. You find yourself retreating into smaller and smaller zones of comfort, predictable routines, and safe media that requires no emotional investment. You are strictly conserving resources. You are stripping the house of its furniture to keep the fire burning. You might wonder why you can't just relax. You try to force leisure, but it feels performative. Sitting on a beach or watching a movie feels restless, like loitering in a waiting room. This is because relaxation requires a signal of safety that your body is refusing to receive. The depletion you feel is not a failure of character. It is the direct mathematical result of running a high-security facility on a civilian energy budget. And the most unsettling part is the growing suspicion that this exhaustion is not a bug in the system. It is the price of the subscription you unknowingly signed. To understand why this happens, we have to dismantle the popular understanding of stress. Most people view the nervous system as a simple switch. You are either stressed, on, or relaxed, off. You assume that if you are not running around in a panic, you must be calm. But neurobiology reveals a third, far more deceptive state. This is not the fight or flight response of the sympathetic nervous system, which floods you with adrenaline to combat an immediate tiger. Nor is it the restorative rest and digest state of the ventral vagal system, where social engagement and healing occur. What you are experiencing is often classified as a functional freeze. Imagine a car. Fight or flight is slamming on the gas. Rest is easing off the pedal and coasting. Functional freeze is the specific mechanical act of slamming on the gas and the emergency brake simultaneously. Your sympathetic system is revving, pumping cortisol into your blood, demanding you scan for threats and execute tasks. But your dorsal vagal system, the ancient reptilian circuit responsible for immobilization, is clamping down hard to numb the sensation of that stress. The result is a high-friction internal deadlock. You appear still, you appear functional, but under the hood, the engine is screaming. This explains the paradoxical fatigue. You are burning massive amounts of glucose just to remain static. It explains the numbness. Your biology has engaged a chemical dampener to shield you from the intensity of your own stress response. This mechanism is not a mistake. It is a brilliant evolutionary adaptation. It is designed for environments where fighting is impossible and fleeing is futile, where the only way to survive is to endure, to be useful, and to feel nothing. Your brain catalogued a time in your history, perhaps a volatile childhood, a long-term crisis, or a period of helplessness, where being alive and vibrant was dangerous, but being dead or collapsed was not an option. It found the middle path, the automaton, the survivor. It wired this pathway because it worked. It got you through. But the neurological tragedy is that the brain is a prediction machine, not a camera. It does not see the safety of your current reality. It only predicts the recurrence of the past. The mechanism is perfect, but it begs a terrifying question. If the threat is gone and the predator has left the room, why hasn't the signal to stand down ever arrived? You have likely codified this experience into a narrative of self-judgment. You tell yourself that you are simply lazy. You convince yourself that you lack the spark or ambition that others seem to possess effortlessly. You look at your inability to engage deeply and decide that you are fundamentally cold, or perhaps that you have simply aged out of passion. You view your numbness as a moral failing, a sign that you are a hollow person pretending to be full. This is a category error. This is not a personality trait. It is a safety setting. You are not lazy. You are exhausted from the metabolic cost of repressing a nervous system that is screaming for mobilization. What you interpret as a lack of discipline is actually the biological weight of the brake pedal. You are not cold. You are insulated. The distance you feel from others is not a lack of capacity for love. It is a perimeter fence erected to keep inputs manageable. You are not boring. You are highly specialized for a hazardous environment that no longer exists. You are confusing your nature with your armor. You have worn the suit of the survivor for so long that the skin underneath has forgotten what the air feels like. You identify with the shield, not the soldier holding it. But the tragedy of this adaptation is that the armor does not grow with you. It is rigid. The very mechanism that kept you safe during the threat is now the primary thing constricting your expansion. You are effectively a prisoner of your own successful defense, keeping the walls up long after the siege has ended, starving the very self you fought so hard to protect. Watch how this specific mechanism, the gas pedal pressed firmly against the brake, colonizes the architecture of your relationships. You are likely the partner who is described as low drama. You do not pick fights. You do not make erratic demands. You are consistent. But pay close attention to the nature of your intimacy. You offer service, not self. You demonstrate love through acts of maintenance, fixing the sink, organizing the schedule, listening to the vent, rather than through emotional exposure. You are present for their pain, but you are often absent for their joy. Why? Because pain is a problem to be solved, and your system is designed for crisis management. Joy, however, is unstructured. Joy requires you to drop the guard and let the nervous system undulate freely. That is terrifying to a system stuck in freeze. So you stand on the edge of the party, watching your partner laugh, feeling a phantom pane of glass between you and the experience. You feel lonely, not because you are alone, but because you are withholding the only part of you that can actually connect, your vulnerability. You are effectively loving them from inside a bunker. Shift this lens to your professional life. The pattern repeats with brutal symmetry. You are likely a crisis addict who claims to hate stress. You complain about the chaos at work, the deadlines, the fires that need putting down. Yet notice what happens when the chaos stops. When the project is finished, when the inbox is empty, when the lull arrives. You do not relax. You become agitated. You feel a sudden, inexplicable drop in dopamine. You might even manufacture a new problem or obsess over a minor error just to ramp the pressure back up. This is not because you love work. It is because high-pressure environments force your internal brake to release. When the external emergency is loud enough, it overrides your internal inhibition. You are finally allowed to move. You feel in the zone. But the moment the external pressure fades, the brake clamps down again, and you are left with the crushing weight of your own inertia. You are stuck in a loop where you need the world to be falling apart just so you can feel capable of moving through it. You are not driven by ambition. You are driven by the need for a stimulus strong enough to bypass your own suppression. Consider your relationship with creativity and pleasure. How many projects have you started and abandoned? How many times have you bought the notebook, the camera, the instrument, fueled by a genuine desire to create, only to hit an invisible wall the moment you sit down to begin? You label this procrastination. You think you lack discipline. But look at the mechanism. Creativity is, by definition, a non-essential expenditure of energy. It is playful. It is vulnerable. It is uncertain. To a nervous system calibrated for survival, creativity is a waste of precious resources. Your biology categorizes painting a picture or writing a story as frivolous risks when the budget is reserved for threat detection. The moment you try to create, your system cuts the power. It produces a sudden fog, a wave of fatigue, or a sharp spike of "this is pointless" thinking. You aren't fighting a lack of talent, you are fighting a biological breaker switch that trips every time you try to draw current for something that isn't strictly necessary for survival. Finally, look at how you perceive time. You probably excel at short-term logistics. You can survive the day, you can survive the week. But if someone asks you where you want to be in 5 years, the mind goes blank. It feels like looking into a dense fog. You cannot visualize a future version of yourself because survival is an immediate-term strategy. An animal in a freeze state is not planning for the next season, it is waiting for the predator to leave. You have lost the ability to dream, not because you have no imagination, but because your nervous system keeps you locked in a perpetual now, scanning the immediate perimeter, unable to afford the luxury of looking at the horizon. The pattern is total. It is not just how you feel, it is how you operate in every dimension. A universal strategy of withholding life to ensure survival. You have survived. That is the single, undeniable data point your brain uses to justify this entire operation. The mechanism worked. The freeze state, the emotional detachment, the high-functioning mask, they successfully navigated you through the minefield. But survival is not a static achievement. It is an ongoing economic transaction. And the currency you are paying with is not infinite. Every day you maintain this state of functional freeze, you are paying a biological tax. You are purchasing safety with the currency of vitality. This trade-off is often invisible until the debt accumulates to a breaking point. The body, treated as a utility vehicle for decades, begins to exhibit the specific wear of a machine run without oil. The chronic bracing does not simply vanish when you sleep, it sediments into the fascia. It manifests as the tension headache that resists medication, the digestive system that rejects fuel, the autoimmune flare that defies diagnosis. These are not random malfunctions. They are the invoices for a nervous system that has been running a wartime economy during peacetime. But the somatic cost is secondary to the existential attrition. The most expensive line item in this budget is your capacity for resonance. You cannot selectively numb. The same biological break that dampens fear and grief also dampens joy, curiosity, and awe. You have become so efficient at filtering out the noise that you have inadvertently filtered out the music. You move through your life feeling like you are wearing thick woolen gloves. You touch the texture of your existence, your achievements, your relationships, your milestones, but you cannot actually feel them. You are safe from the jagged edges of heartbreak, yes, but you are also safe from the piercing clarity of deep connection. You have built a fortress to protect the self. The walls are high, thick, and impregnable. The you inside is perfectly secure. But the walls are now so thick that no light can reach the interior. The treasure is safe, but it is sitting in the dark, gathering dust. You are not living, you are hoarding time. You are accumulating days without spending them. The danger is no longer the external threat that initiated this response years ago. The predator has left the room. The danger is now the strategy itself. The danger is looking at a calendar and realizing that 5 years have passed in a reliable grey blur. The danger is realizing that in your desperate, successful bid to ensure you would not be hurt, you ensured you would not be touched. The bill for this safety is finally arriving, and the cost is not pain. The cost is the unlived life. The terrifying question is not whether you can keep this up. We know you can. The question is, how much of your remaining time are you willing to sell to keep buying a safety you no longer need? There is no grand finale here. There is no cinematic moment where the ice suddenly melts and you sprint into the sunlight. That is a movie trope, not neurobiology. You will likely wake up tomorrow with the same familiar heaviness. The hand will reach for the coffee. The eyes will scan the room. The armor does not dissolve simply because you have acknowledged its weight. But something fundamental has shifted in the architecture. The silence is no longer empty. It is now populated by a witness. You are finally watching the machine work. You see the brake pedal now. You feel the tightness in the chest, not as who you are, but as what you are doing. This micro-separation is the only beginning that matters. It is the hairline fracture in the monolith. It is the difference between being the prison and being the prisoner who has just found the first loose brick. You do not need to smash the walls down today. That would only trigger a panic response, sending the internal guards scrambling to secure the perimeter. The task is far smaller and far more terrifying. It is to notice the moments of actual safety, the quiet morning, the trusted friend, the absence of threat, and gently, imperceptibly, take your foot off the brake, just by a millimeter, to risk the sensation of speed, to risk the intake of a breath that goes all the way down to the diaphragm. The predator is gone. The cage door is unlocked. You've been sitting in the back of the open cage for so long that you've forgotten you have legs. But the muscles are still there. The question is not whether you can leave. We know you can. The question hanging in the heavy silence of your chest is far more daunting. If you finally let yourself feel the sheer magnitude of the life you've been holding back, what will you do with the terrifying amount of energy that is waiting to rush in?